Hello and welcome to episode 205 of the Awesome Comics Podcast, the place where the small press makes one hell of a big noise. I'm Vince Hunt, creator of The Red Mask from Mars, and I'm here with the creator of the webcomic Vanguard, Dan Butcher.
Hello.
Triumphantly here after just finishing your latest issue, isn't that right, Dan? Is it?
Yes, we've just finished issue 16.
Issue 16.
Yeah.
Bloody hell. You're hardcore, you are, aren't you?
Getting through them all.
Yeah, when's the next one?
Well, actually, after the project we're going to talk about in this episode of the Awesome Comics Podcast. Cue the music. We've already done that bit.
Yeah.
But...
Do you know what? Each week that goes by, you're sort of chipping away. You're becoming more and more of like a main host. I have noticed this. You're very professional, Dan.
Oh, thank you.
Are you after my job?
No. It doesn't pay, so I'm not after it.
You're such a mercenary, Dan.
Yes.
Yes. Our esteemed colleague and professor of comics, which we'll call him from now on, and everyone should, Tony Esmond, he couldn't be here today because he's been absolutely knocking it out of the park at LCAF this weekend with the No Brow crew. From the pictures and the reports we've seen, it's been heaving. It looks like everything a comic event should be, and I've never been to one. Have you?
No,
been to one,
I should do because it's only in East London. And for people who don't live in London or the UK, the weather this weekend has been absolutely atrocious. Like rain, sun, rain, wind, everything. Like in like half-hour bursts. So the fact that the hall was jammed, pretty much every photo that Tony sent, is just a testament of what a great event it is.
Yeah, and I'm surprised he managed to actually send any pictures because he's probably been so busy selling all those fantastic books from No Brow, some of which we're going to be talking about in the future. I just know it. Just looking at some of the... there was
one of which we're going to be getting.
Yes.
Tony bought us a book.
Yes, there's a certain McNaught that... I mean, if anyone's seen Twitter and stuff or follows Tony on Twitter, you would have seen what he's been posting. And there's one particular...
I mean, that Kingdom, fucking hell, that is amazing.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll probably talk a bit more about that next week. And he did a little bit of audio, but when he's back next week, we'll talk about the event. You know, we'll get it straight from the horse's mouth. I'm not calling you a horse, Tony. And we'll give you that extra bit of audio as well. So we'll get the full rundown next week, so you can look forward to that. He's not here, but it's not just me and Dan, because the world can't contain that much sexy. Isn't that right, Dan?
Yeah, I guess so. What, when there's less of us?
I mean, when it's just you and me in a room. Well, we're not in a room.
Yeah.
It's already off the rails. But no, it's not just me and Dan. Oh, no. This week, we are joined by the writer of Milford Green, Saffron, and another project that we'll be talking about in a bit as well. He also does a little bit of a podcast himself. So we're going to be doing a little bit of why the hell did you decide to do this, you fool, conversation later. Yes, that's right. We are joined by Samuel George London. Hello, sir.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good, Sam.
We are good.
Good.
And you were good. You were very well behaved there, being all quiet while me and Dan were waffling on.
I was actually doing silent belly laughs. Honestly, I was. I almost couldn't contain myself.
We've all been
easy
on,
now.
Comics the Apocalypse, haven't we?
We have all been on. Yeah. For those who don't know,
I've collected the Holy Trinity. Yeah, that's right.
Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman.
Was it me, Tony, then Vince? Was that the running
Yes,
order?
it was.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, that's right.
And I'm still recovering now. I had
a cracking time with all of you.
Well, he's gonna say that, isn't he?
Yeah, it is lots of fun just doing a podcast talking about comics.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I've got 200 plus episodes under my belt to doing it.
Yeah, I'm only at 20. So
far, but you've already got a lot in the pouches.
Talking of comics,
yes, Dan.
There's an app where we can read comics.
I tell you what, James Bond has nothing on this boy. Smooth, he's shaken, he's stirred, and he's probably a little bit fizzy. Dan Butcher is, of course, talking about our sponsors, Comic House.
Yes.
And their wonderful app, yes. Thank you for sponsoring us, Comic House. They are the indie comic marketplace with a difference. There's a huge selection of titles on their database. On the website itself, if you sort of self-publish and print your own comics, it's another way to sort of like get your books out there. It's another sort of storefront, as it were. People can order through Comic House. They only take like a penny commission, and it's just another storefront for you. It's fantastic. There's loads of stuff on there, but they also have an awesome app. Yes, we jokingly say it's like Netflix for comics, but it kind of is. It's a subscription sort of app, and they've got tons of stuff on there. I mean, a lot of our comics are on there as well as stuff we've talked about on the show before. There's new stuff going on all the time. What's on there at the moment, Dan?
We've got in this week's update, we've got The Catalyst, which I read earlier today. That's great. It's kind of like a dude doing like dimension jumping.
Yeah, is that Nick Bryan, that one?
Yes.
I need to read. Yeah, because he's written a couple of great books. I've really been looking forward to reading.
The art style's great because every time he goes into a new dimension, it changes.
The art style changes?
The art style changes.
Oh.
So it kind of the different realities in it changes to. So it's just not the same art style already, which I really appreciate.
I think Nick, as a writer, he really does sort of different things with all of his different artists. Because I know he did the little deaths of Watson Tower, which was obviously
it is the same artist all the way through, but the style they work in is slightly tweaked, so
nice.
It reflects. It's really well done.
Cool.
We've got Pure Dead Mental by James McCulloch. That's great. It's got some great tales in that one.
Good cover on that one.
Yeah, I did the cover on that one. I was wearing a T-shirt of that yesterday because he sent me a T-shirt print.
So you had a T-shirt. I mean, essentially that cover is your face, isn't it?
Yeah, it's my face.
So you were wearing a T-shirt with your face on it.
Yeah.
Did anyone?
No one commented. No, sadly.
Do you think they were too scared?
Well, yeah, I guess it takes a certain type of person to wear a picture of their face on the T-shirt with the eyes removed.
Yeah, I'm guessing that they're more distracted by the fact that you're not wearing any trousers.
Yeah, that does draw the eye south.
Yeah, I've told you the Winnie the Pooh look just doesn't work in real life.
We've got Peace of Mind issue 2, which I read issue 1 of today. We've got Jake Stone, Errol vs. Evil by a friend of the show, Darryl Thorpe, which is absolutely fantastic. It's like street art come to life on the comic book page. Really love great stuff. Got Legacy issue 1 and this comic that doesn't have a title, which is called The Advocator Winter Edition. And you can read these and hundreds more indie comics right now on Comic House.
Yes. It's only £3 a month. There is a 14-day free trial. And you get access to all of that and more, including like Dynamite Comics. So far, 3 issues of Awesome Comics, which is our personal comic.
We've got to stick 4 on there, haven't we?
We're going to stick 4 on there soon. Yes. We need to talk about when. But if you're listening to this in the far-flung future, it'll be on there. So go and check it out. But not only do they sponsor us, and go to comichouse.com to find out more info. But we've got a couple of competitions lined up because Comic House also they've been doing an anthology book with loads of great indie creators. A lot of our sort of listeners and people we know have been part of this book. It's like an anthology sort of series, really nicely put together. I think they're on 11 or 12 issues, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah, it's something like that. But we had a competition last week, and it's going to be doing it this week as well, for the first 10 issues, like a set of 10 comics. Now, that's tons of comics, including stuff that I've done, The Mandy the Monster Hunter that I worked on with Hellbound Media. Dan, what was it?
Suited and Booted with John Late.
Oh, that was fantastic as well. So if you want those two, as well as loads of other stuff, you can win a set of the first 10 issues of Comic House. Last week, we did a competition. We've decided we're going to announce the winners next week when Tony's here. And make it a party show. Oh, God help us. But yes, last week we asked for give us your best elevator pitch. Thank you to everyone that sent in answers. We've deliberated. We've talked about it. We'll be announcing the winner of week 1 of the Comic House set next week on episode 206. 206, Jesus Christ. But this week we've got another set of Comic House 1 to 10 to offer up to you lovely listeners, and this is a competition. It's another creative one. Dan, do you want to take it away?
Yes. An adult movie producer gets in touch with you and wants to make an adult film based on a small press comic, and the way he works is he wants the title first and then he's going to work back from there. So we want your porn parody title of a small press comic. The best and most amusing one will win the prize.
Yes.
And if you email that into the awesome pod
Yeah, awesomecomicspod@gmail.com with the subject title.
What do we say? Comics parody.
Yeah.
Don't put any kind of adult related stuff in the subject title because it might get intercepted.
Yeah.
By
Yeah. So if you put Comic
I
House,
just came up with one. Sorry.
what far away?
Yeah, go on. Give us an example.
Are you sure you want me to say it?
Give us an example of what they could do. Go on.
Okay. Vag guard.
Yeah.
That is terrible. Sorry. Oh my God.
I think the red mask is low hanging fruit.
As well.
There's a lot you can play with that one.
Yeah. When a lot of people will probably be thinking, I can just put the word ass or something like that into places. We're looking for true creativity here.
Yeah.
I mean, this may be a nonsensical, stupid competition, but we're looking for you to push the boundaries. This is a chance to some creative writing.
This fictional movie producer's got he's got a high bar. He wants you to get.
Yeah.
He uses a high, strong concept for the title, and he can work his film on that.
he thinks he's Jim Jarmusch. So, and all we don't want the synopsis for the film.
No,
please,
no.
God, no. Just give us the title. That's all we want.
Yes.
So, yeah, and if you and of course us and Pete from Comic House will judge the winner as well.
Yeah.
So, we'll announce the winner next week.
We came up with this. This does not reflect on Comic House in any way.
Yeah, he had nothing to do with this apart from being one of the judges that we're essentially we're forcing to judge this.
Or Pete to read through the trash that's going to come.
Yeah, I have to check to see if his spam folder's a decent size. Anyway, so that's the competition. So email us your answers to awesomecomicspod@gmail.com and check out comichouse.com today. Now, I mean, after that spectacular wordplay, Sam,
Thank you.
Where do we start? I mean, clearly we've got a writer on the show this week.
I try.
Yeah. But we actually we bumped into you 2 years. Was it 2 years ago?
It would be now, yeah.
True Believers, wasn't it? I think.
True Believers 2018.
2018, I think.
Yeah, so it would be 2018, yeah.
Yeah,
so.
And that was the day that obviously we launched Awesome Comics issue 1.
Yeah.
And I think we interviewed you on the...
I managed to sneak on, yeah.
I think I spoke to you about Milford Green.
Yes, at the time, because I was literally kickstarting it. During True Believers then.
Yeah.
Nice.
But you hadn't had a table then, did you? So you have a table at True Believers, or were you just walking around?
Not that year. I did this year, but 2018, I was just walking around as a punter, and kind of just trying to connect with people face to face. As well,
and getting ideas for when you eventually did convention sort of.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of see how it's actually done. In the small press scene, really. How did you find
that? Before we get into when you started the comics and stuff, I think it's quite because it's something that I did as well. Before I ever tabled at a convention, I would go around and talk to people and see table layouts and stuff like that. How many conventions did you do before you decided to jump in yourself?
How many did I do? I think I did. I think it was just True Believers and Thought Bubble.
Right.
So it would have just been 2, really.
But Thought Bubble's quite it's one of the major ones, isn't it? It's not.
Exactly. It's not small fry by any means. And I think that kind of gave me good examples of what to do. And then it was Nottingham that I ended up doing. So what was that, October last year?
Yeah.
And kind of off the back of True Believers in February, Thought Bubble September, and then the month after I did my first con, basically. But there were some really good examples there of people that were doing it well and people that maybe could improve. It was a really good thing to do. So if there are any budding creators out there, definitely go to a con as a punter first and kind of take mental notes. You could take actual notes, but it might be a bit weird.
You just look weird walking around staring at people and then jotting it on a pad.
Just literally jotting it all down and things.
So kind of get in there and check it out though is that's great, because if you just rocked up to convention with just a few things to stick on a table. You might forget stuff like the tablecloth, not getting yourself a banner, and various kind of little things you could fall into.
Oh, definitely, because you could just base everything on your best assumptions and then rock up, and then as you say, you've forgotten a banner. You didn't know that you had to have a tablecloth and stuff like this, and your table could look proper bare, basically.
Yeah, because there is a lot of people who I think just they jump in the deep end without looking at how deep the water is, if you know what I mean. That's like a lot of people, and we've certainly seen it. Like, oh, I'll make a comic. And they'll think it'll just be, they'll make a comic, they'll go to a show, they'll sell out. Do you know what I mean? They think it's an easy sort of process. And it really isn't. It really isn't.
Not at all.
No matter what sort of show you're at, you need to be prepared for all kinds of mishaps. Also be prepared that you'll always forget at least one thing that you should have taken with you. That normally happens. Although it didn't happen to us at MCM, did it, Dan?
No, you kind of always forget something, but we kind of fortunately had everything.
We had too much.
We were missing one thing, and that was sales, but we can avoid that.
Oh man! I was, last week's episode was great, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it was a great insight into MCM and everything honest about that process. It was really interesting. So
it was. Thank you for all the kind words about last week's shows as well, listeners. It was obviously we called it the honest episode, so naturally we got a lot of jokes about that. But
we were just trying to be upfront about what the weekend entailed. We wasn't trying to spin it or. And
also, it was from our perspective. We can't speak, for everyone. Some people probably had a quiet show. Some people probably had an absolute banger. So, it was just purely okay. Here's our experience, which is kind of, I guess, why some people listen to the show to see how we ruin things. But yeah, we will be back to an MCM as well. I'm definitely going to give it. It's not. I don't want to say you go to a show and you have a bad show, you can't immediately judge it.
No, just on the one-off.
On one-off.
I agree, because a lot of people have spoken to around us and throughout said that one was a bit of an anomaly and it was very quiet.
Yeah,
and no one really knows why.
Yeah.
But that's just what that's the hand we was dealt. But it could be completely different.
Yeah.
Another time.
Yeah, but we met some lovely people. We got some new listeners, so welcome to the show. And
yes.
It's only gonna get better from here, and we've got some more shows later in the year that we're going to talk about as well. So obviously from us talking nonsense about MCM to your experience, Sam, because obviously we met you at True Believers, but Milford Green was already in the pipeline, didn't it? So tell us how it actually started from you actually thinking, I want to make a comic.
Yeah.
I mean, because what was your background with comics?
Yeah, so I was a late bloomer when it came to comics. I only got into comics after The Walking Dead, basically.
TV show or?
Yes, so I started watching the TV show, which the first couple of seasons were great, and that kind of got me interested. And you find out that it's a comic. And that there's this whole world of indie comics apart from DC and Marvel, and so I literally bought I think the first two compendiums were out at that time.
I've got the first one. They're really, really good sort of they're doorstops of books, aren't they, those ones?
Proper proper thick, so I bought that, and then I think it contains 98 issues or something like that. No, maybe 96. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think it's 40. What was it? 48 issues per compendium.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I had all of that to basically read, and so I read all of that, and then I was like, well, what else is there? And so just looking at the creator, the writer, Robert Kirkman, and just picked up Invincible and basically read all of that, which was up to
amazing.
That. And one of my favourites, definitely. So I was very fortunate to get two series that were fairly far in. So I basically binged read all of these two series.
Yeah.
And obviously Invincible's finished now. So it was great to have kind of had been there before it finished.
Yeah.
In fact, actually.
So did you get all completely caught up and then were reading it month on month as it came out?
Yes, yeah, thereafter. So kind of caught up, and then I think it was probably about issue 118
Okay.
that I'd come in at.
What did it go up to? 200 or
No, I think it was 140.
Yeah, it was
140.
about 140.
144.
Cool, that's no mean feat to come in at 118 and then, get caught up like that. Bloody hell.
yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's just such a great series. I mean,
yeah,
it's amazing. And so, yeah, having found out about Robert Kirkman, then obviously that links you to other creators, and one of the most notable for me was Mark Miller, and kind of read most of his back catalogue, which was great. Things like Reborn, I really enjoyed. I know it's not one of his most loved
That's one
ones,
with Capullo, isn't it? That one.
yeah.
I think so.
Capullo's artwork is amazing all the time.
Yeah.
Definitely. And all things like that. I just really kind of deep dived into Image at large, and kind of and watched the documentaries on Image as well, which I thought was really interesting because I had no idea about this, and finding out how kind of they were a splinter group in the 90s and all of this jazz, and I was like, wow, this is amazing that there's this kind of revolution that happened in comics. I had no idea about it.
So dramatic as well when you see those documentaries.
Yeah,
You're like, is it
really dramatic?
It's almost like, did this happen? But yeah,
it really did.
Hear about them all like going into the office and Todd McFarlane sort of at the head, like with a full head of steam, and calling their bluff. That was interesting. Yeah, and I'm sure it happened like that.
Yeah, he just didn't give a fuck. Well, he still doesn't.
No, he kind of wanted to sock it to him, and
yeah.
It was interesting. Like, if you're going to pick a leader, you're going to pick Todd McFarlane to do the talking when he's really got like quite a lot of fire in his belly about dealing with him, and that's what he did.
Yeah.
So what interests me, Sam, is how did you think? What did you go from like I like reading this stuff to I want to do it?
So I'd always been interested in trying to create things. And all sorts of things. I mean,
generally, if you're like a creative person, you can kind of turn your hands to anything. Do you know what I mean?
Almost, yeah. I mean, I can't draw for shit, but I'm fairly good at woodwork.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like you do collages, people say, "Oh, I've got this," and you can come up with a creative solution to it. I usually find that sort of the mindset.
Yeah, exactly. It is a mindset. You're quite right. And so I thought, the one thing that I could do with comics, so I've fallen in love with comics at this point, was that I could write, essentially. And so I tried to kind of come up with a concept for a story. And whilst I kind of had some kind of alternative concepts brewing in my head, I thought I'd give a webcomic a go. And so I commissioned this artist to do a webcomic called Resilience.
Okay.
It was basically The Walking Dead in the UK, essentially, right? And this was my first go at trying to create a comic because as you said, I'm fresh as a baby out of the womb in terms of comics, but the only way to learn is by doing. Really. And so I commissioned this guy to do to try out doing a webcomic. It was called Resilience. It was essentially, as I said, Walking Dead in the UK. But what I did is that per issue, instead of 22 pages, it was 22 panels, and there were square panels each one. And I got up to 5 issues of that. And I enjoyed the process of kind of, giving the artist a script, and then seeing it come back, and then, you give them notes and things like that. But the story wasn't sticking at all. Nobody really got involved with it and things like that. And so I was like, right, I can't carry this on. Just keep on commissioning an artist, which I'd love to do, but it's not getting any fan base.
No.
And so back to the drawing board and things.
That's an interesting thing. I think that certainly, well, I don't think we've spoken about it too much. Is no matter how much you love a concept, sometimes there's no audience for it. And it's a difficult thing to say, because we love our babies, don't we? We love all of these concepts we do, but there has to be a point where you, like you did, Sam, you had to make this decision. Okay, because it's a monetary thing as well. Am I going to keep down this path? If there's going to be no engagement, I'll just be doing it for myself. And there's a lot to be said. We should always make comics for ourselves deep down, but if you're putting things into the ether, if you're putting things out to a larger audience, you have to be sure that it has an audience. And I think it can be a difficult sort of question to ask yourself. So good on you for sort of making that decision, Sam. Is that webcomic still available?
I don't think the website's up anymore, but I believe I did put it on Comic House just for kind of, I don't know.
That's right.
I don't think it's self-preservation, but it's just to have it somewhere online that people can access it, I guess.
Yeah. And you're still proud of it, aren't you? Even though,
in a way, definitely. I mean,
in a way, I mean, it's your first piece of work.
It's a first try, so I should be proud of it. Yeah, you're right. I gave it the good college try.
Yeah.
With
it wasn't great.
You kind of got to, it can be like the slow burn. You got to build up a lot before kind of you get the audience on board, and even then it's kind of be hard to track if anyone's bloody reading or enjoying the bloody thing. So when you're paying for it as well, that's tough. That's a tough gig. So I can totally understand why you were kind of right. Let's change tact and try something else.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you made the decision, right? Okay, I'm not going to do this. What was the next step then?
So the next step was Kickstarter, really, and so because I'd been getting deeper and deeper into this world, and finding out about webcomics and Vanguard in particular, and
thank you.
That's all good. It's great. I can't wait for Vanguard. It's going to be great. But anyway, so the other stream of comics is Kickstarter, right? In terms of up and comers, I guess, really. And so I decided, right, Kickstarter is going to be the way that I'm going to have to do this to kind of try and start getting a fan base, I guess. And I was essentially walking in some hills in Hampshire, and this image of a spacecraft kind of shot in front of me and then crash landed right down at the bottom of the hill, just like a vision, just in my head. Just this
I was just going to make sure you weren't going actually mental.
Yes, yeah. I swear it.
Dan, we've got another one. We've got one of those UFO people on here, Dan. Jesus.
But yeah, definitely, it was definitely just just my imagination just chasing away with me. But yeah, I saw that and I just thought, wow, what an interesting image of this spacecraft crash landing in these farmers' fields in Hampshire, because the usual thing is in a city in America or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But this image of a spacecraft crash landing in a farmer's field in southern England kind of really spoke to me. And then it was about a week or two later that I ended up going to a local museum called Milestones in Basingstoke, which is where I'm from. And that is essentially a Victorian village in a warehouse. So it's kind of an immersive experience, although they don't have actors and things, but it's a Victorian village as it would have been, but in this massive warehouse. And I was kind of walking around there, and I got this image again of aliens going about this Victorian village. So I don't know what's going on with my imagination, or my wife is slipping some DMT into my coffee or something. I don't know. But anyway, so I started to try and brew a story from this, and essentially out came Milford Green. I wrote a script based on that, and then it was time to find an artist, and the artist I found was Michael Hankinen, who was, it's just perfect in terms.
How did you find him though? In order to go from before The Walking Dead, you hadn't even written a comic script.
Yeah.
To writing a comic and then the search for the artist. I mean, did you look up? I mean, obviously you had written something for the webcomic, but even before then, did you research how a comic script is laid out? How these things are put together?
Yeah, I did. So just Google comic book script, and there's an absolute ton out there in terms of free examples of scripts that have been written. From Alan Moore's scripts, which are crazy long, to trying to think. I think there's
someone like Mark Miller, where you'll just sort of say action scene, and then
exactly. Yeah, you do it.
Yeah,
yeah, great, Mark. Good job. So that's what he does. It's great. Kind of give the artist some liberty in terms of all of that, isn't it? I researched that. And the way of writing for me that really suited me, because of the way that my brain works, I use column script writing, and Dan, you'll kind of know this because you're adapting one of my scripts as we speak. But essentially, I've got 3 columns, and so the first column is the page and panel,
right,
and then the second column is the description of the panel, and then the last column is the dialogue.
So what is this, like an Excel spreadsheet?
Essentially, yeah, just in a Word document.
Oh, that scares me just to hear those words.
And I'd actually like to hear, Dan, how you kind of feel in terms of an artist. How?
Yeah, it's not been a problem with kind of. Because usually it's kind of I have it all on screen and then work out the page, like, so I've got this is the page, how many panels, I write that at the top, and then try and pinpoint what panel is going to be the center point, and then work out the rest around that. Mm-hmm. So I always try and make one panel stand out than over the others.
Yeah,
usually, but I've not really had a problem with it.
No, it's worked okay.
Yeah,
and you can always adapt it into a way that kind of fits you as an artist. But me as a writer, that's how I write. George R.R. Martin talks about the fact that there's really the spectrum of writers is that there's architects and there's gardeners. He's more gardener, he says.
God,
and just a bit. And everybody's kind of on the spectrum of architect to gardener. But I'd probably say
a bin man
towards the architect.
You just throw it all at the wall, see what sticks.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's why we got sacked as a binman.
Gosh darn it. And then the other thing that I use is that story structure is big in my head, at least. Again, that's kind of leaning more towards the architect. And so I use an 8-point story structure, which famously Dan Harmon, one of the writers of Rick and Morty, he uses for every single episode.
Did he write this out at one point? Did I remember?
He did.
I can't remember. I can't remember.
I'm not familiar with this.
Yeah, what? Yeah, tell us a bit more about that then, Sam.
Yeah, so the way that it works, and there are so many kind of different models of the 8-point story arc, but they're essentially all the same, and they all use different words, but as I say, they're essentially all the same. So the one that really kind of resonated with me is that it goes stasis. So the first story point is stasis. So that's kind of where your protagonist, that's their normal life, their day-to-day life. That's the setting. And then the trigger is the second point. So that's what triggers the story. And then the quest. So what is going to be what has been laid out before the protagonist, essentially. And then the fourth point is surprise, which is where the conflict and obstacles arise, essentially, in the story. And then the fifth point is critical choice. So that's where your protagonist has to make a difficult decision that might be in conflict with his heart or his emotions, or his logic and reason and things like that. And then climax. Obviously, that's kind of where everything builds up in Vajgard. But the climax is obviously the main action piece.
Just wait till you see the splash pages.
Oh dear!
Let's not go down this road of double entendres, because once we're going down it, we're doomed.
Sorry, I'm done. I'm spent. So carry on.
There we go. See, we already started.
Amazing. And then your reversal is your characters have changed. So what journey have they been on, the protagonist? And your resolution is just kind of like how the story's wrapped up in a nice little bow for everybody to be content with the story, essentially.
Okay.
Now, if you just, obviously I haven't explained that massively well, but there are
I think
so many.
I think it's fairly
Top of
cool.
your head, yeah, that's decent.
And so, if you just Google 8-point story arc, then there are so many articles on it.
Okay.
And essentially, you can use that story arc you can put that into any story, and most stories will follow that that arc.
It's like the hero's journey, isn't it? The books about the hero's journey.
Yeah.
These stories will always, no matter what they are, they'll always usually follow the same sort of path, no matter how different they may seem. Whether it be your Avengers or your Iron Man to your Harry Potter, if you break it down, it will follow the same path, won't it? Yeah.
Calling back to Kirkman, as we mentioned earlier, one of the things I really enjoy about his writing is things will happen to a character in the story, and it will change the way they view things from then on. Their character will change. So Invincible, something like there's a character where someone does something and it makes them have a negative viewpoint on something. From that point on in the story, that character now has a negative view of that particular thing. So
trauma is very real with his work, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, like they come across a solution to a problem, and it may not be kind of ethically or morally right, but they see that as a solution, and that's what they work towards. And that's how characters from his can be heroes, and then later on in the story they become villains because they're trying to attain something, and they see the way of doing that is not morally right, but they do it anyway. But the way he tells that story is very understandable. And a lot of people kind of get that wrong. I don't know about you guys, when they say you got to make your hero relatable. Not so much that you kind of think, oh, I'd want to be like that. It's just the fact that the choices and decisions they make are understandable.
Yeah.
Like I would say Thanos' choices in Infinity War, they're completely understandable. If you use a bit more rational, you would do it a different way, obviously. But you're understanding what his goal is and
you
why
don't have to agree with them. But
no, exactly. Yeah.
You can understand why he came to that decision.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Because if he was like, I just want to wipe out half the galaxy for a reason, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, because I'm evil. Wow.
Yeah, that's just the worst villain. Because you're just doing it to be a comic book villain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no real motive.
Yeah. So with this 8-point structure, then, like, how did that change your way of like thinking about story structure in general? Then, Sam.
Because I'd only written this flash in the pan webcomic, it's difficult to tell really, in terms of how it's actually kind of affecting me. But
I guess you came in at the right time, because it wasn't like you spent 20 years working in one path and then having to relearn it. I guess it was a brand new system for you, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah, it was. But what it gave me was direction.
Mm.
And I think that's really important, particularly kind of when you're just a new writer just starting out, is to be able to have that direction, because writing is so vast that the world is literally your oyster, but with unlimited choices becomes an unlimited amount of time of procrastination, really.
Oh, yeah.
And pitfalls.
Yeah, massively. And so if you give somebody direction and step by step kind of stages to go through, then that enables you to actually kind of put pen to paper and start writing out a story structure. And so when it comes to Milford Green, for instance, I've got a creation video of how I created Milford Green on my YouTube channel, actually. So if you just Google Samuel George London Milford Green, it would probably come up. But I go into the 8-point story arc there.
We'll put a link in the show notes.
Yeah, please do. And if you haven't read it yet, read it first and then go back to it, because there's spoilers obviously in it. But the stasis for Alfie, for instance, the main character in Milford Green, is the fact that he's this socially awkward inventor in this small Victorian village, and he's a maybe not an outcast, but people think he's a little bit eccentric, a little bit weird, and then the trigger is this spacecraft crash landing in front of him, which you see on the front cover, and the story goes from there. But the fact that I had these story points to hit, it enabled me to outline the story first, and then I was able to write from there. And I didn't have any writer's block from on Milford Green at all, and but I haven't really had any writer's block since. And I think it's because if you outline the story as best you can, using something like an 8-point story arc, then it's going to
before you even start page 1 of the script.
Yeah, ideally, it doesn't always work out like that, and everybody works differently, of course. But
for me, the old knowing where your comic is going to end, if you've got that point, everything should be kind of hunky-dory. I mean, I've got to take my hat off to people. If you back to that metaphor of like the gardeners or the architects, if you're a gardener, how you get to the end of your comic? I mean, that's the reason George R. R. Martin's kind of floundering, because he's kind of getting lost in his own creation. It's getting so unwieldy.
And he's buggering off doing other things, but that's
but you just sort of like, if you just start writing the character and let it go wherever it goes, I think there's a kind of you can get a real beauty out of that. But there's the pitfalls. There's a lot of them.
It's definitely something that I've experienced.
Okay.
Trying to. There's a lot more problems you've got to solve as it goes along. I had a sort of vague idea of what the end point would be, and certain story points, but it's the bits in between, A, B, C, D, before those little character moments that may give birth to something that you want to explore.
Yeah, exactly.
Or sometimes when you get to a certain point, damn it, that action scene isn't going to work anymore. I'm going to have to condense this from what I thought was 6 pages to 4 pages. I'm going to have to do this. There's lots of different problems that came up, and since then, with future stories, I bullet point things. Do you know what I mean? I've made notes in sort of like either pads or on my phone, Google Notes on my phone or whatever. And there's something about seeing a complete story list of what happens in the story. It doesn't have to be detailed. It could just be like, building explodes, they escape. Do you know what I mean? But to see the beginning, middle, and end it gives you confidence. It gives you that sense of, right, I know where I'm going with this, and I can certainly see how, like, the 8-point system, which I haven't really explored before. I mean,
same.
This is the first time I've sort of heard it spoke about, properly, because I haven't looked into the articles for it. But I can see how those having a specific, like I say, the trigger, the quest, the surprise, that's just almost another way of bullet pointing that story. So you hit all the marks, isn't it? So by the time you get to the end, it's all complete. So you for your stuff, Sam, do you do a similar thing? Do you sort of write it all down in sort of shorthand before you even start the script?
Yeah. So I literally have. So I do it all on Google Docs now, and so I've got a file that I just copy and paste into a new folder on my Google Drive of the 8 story points, which I've got kind of as titles, and then I'll go in when I've got a new story idea. I'll copy and paste that into a new folder of the title or something vaguely to do with the story, and then I'll just put in just a sentence or two underneath each heading, and that's as you said, that's all it needs to be really. Just in terms of the outline, just short and sweet, but as long as you've kind of got that structure there, and then you can go back and update it with more detail if you want. But having that all there is ideal. And then when it comes to the writing, so you've kind of got these 8 points there, and then when it comes to the writing, then it's just a case of fleshing it out, letting it come out of you. And this is where I think reading Stephen King's book on writing was really useful. And the biggest bit of advice, the best bit of advice in there is to close the door, he says. In terms of, it doesn't have to be a physical door, although ideally it should be. Close the door in your office or in your mind, and you're going to sit down and you're going to write whatever, even if it's crap. Which I've done loads of times. I've had to rewrite so many things, but just close the door and get typing.
Disconnect the internet. Switch your phone off. Put your phone somewhere else.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the advantages I think sometimes an artist can have. I don't know if you think like this, Dan. Because I'm so focused on the page or whatever I'm drawing at the moment, the only internet I'll sort of look at, the only distraction I'll have is what music am I going to listen to now? I'll put I'll put on this playlist, and then leave me with a box of crayons in a room for a couple of hours and I'll be happy. Whereas if I'm writing, because I'm literally looking at a screen or I'm typing, or maybe I want to find out about something, Google's right there. The distractions are always at your fingertips, aren't they, when you're a writer?
Yeah, I can understand it. I mean, to be fair, once I kind of get into the work mode and I'm kind of locked in, I'm not too easily distracted. I can kind of get cracking on with it. But I certainly understand, if you start getting messages through, I mean, that Facebook thing, I don't know how to turn it off on Windows 10. I'll be working, and then that fucking message will pop up in the right-hand corner, say, someone mentioned you in a comment on Facebook.
And then your heart sinks.
And I've got to go on Facebook. But it's just that constant kind of someone sort of tapping you on the shoulder all the time when you're in the zone, as it were.
Yeah.
What's the fucking problem? I want to carry on doing this or whatever.
Yeah.
I guess that's modern life.
But when you are in the zone of anything, you can I've had it where I've been working on something and I'll look at my phone and there's been a huge WhatsApp conversation between Dan and Tony that I've completely missed out on because I've been busy doing something else.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating because I find when I'm writing, I'm in the point when it's all going well, that I don't want any kind of disturb, because it's kind of that episode of Malcolm in the Middle where Hal's bowling and he has to keep doing the same thing over and over and he keeps getting strikes.
Is that the first time we've ever had a Malcolm?
I think so, maybe.
Blimey.
But everything's going right and I don't want anything to change because this is going great now.
Yeah.
But then someone will do something and you have to swap.
Yeah.
And we'll start working.
Yeah. So when you write then, Sam, obviously you're not necessarily working in Word or anything like that, and so do you sort of close the door? Do you shut yourself away for a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I literally closed the door in my office and put my phone away. And I'm still connected to the internet because I'm using Google Docs.
Yeah.
But I am kind of mentally, I'm logged out of the outside world, and literally just focusing on that. And yeah, sometimes I write with music, sometimes I don't write with music.
Yeah.
I think it depends on what mood I'm in, but it always has to be instrumental if I am listening to music. Because if I had lyrics, I think it'd mess with my head probably, and I couldn't concentrate properly.
I think Tony's mentioned this. I've certainly mentioned it. I usually get most of my ideas when I'm out and about walking or listening to music or doing something else. Then so what I do is I send that back, and like you, Vince, I gather it all together on one document, and then it's like, right, I've got these bullet points of what I need to happen, and then I put them over the pages. And see what fits and what doesn't, what I can cut down. And that writing bit is essentially just when I'm sitting down fleshing it all out, and it's more of a kind of a process. All the kind of creative thinking's pretty much done at that point, and it's just filling it up. There's obviously the bits and you think, oh well, that doesn't work, and you have to kind of go away from it and let the brain tick over again to fill the spots. I mean, you've probably all had that moment when you can't think, well, I've got this bit of the script and that bit of the script, but it's not. There's a middle bit that's not connecting these two sequences, and you'll go away and you'll be walking around, and then suddenly it'll be like click, and I could do that, and then it works, and it's a great little eureka moment. And you're not even actively thinking of it, but your brain's like ticking away on it,
and you need to immediately make sure you note it down somewhere just in case you forget it.
Oh yeah. I email myself about 20 times a day, I think, like with notes just of stuff. So crazy, because sometimes I've stopped a conversation and said, sorry, I just need to email myself. Like, and people look at me like, what? Like, don't worry about it.
My work one when I'm like walking in or commuting in, and then put it on the Google Docs when I get to work. And I was wondering if like an IT or HR person just looked at that random email that came in, and it's got like a few ideas for me. What the fuck is this? Like and then Joe Bloggs kills this, and it's all good. And then he's seen to the next panel, and I'm like, what?
They're holding their guts in their hands. HR? We need to call HR?
So, Dan, can you just pop into HR when you settle down? No problem.
Could you leave the stapler on your desk, please, Dan? So you've got your spreadsheet, or you've got your script ready, and you've got all this. This fascinates me, this way of doing a script. By the way, I think in some ways we'll have to. Do you have an example of like an old script we can get a screenshot so the listeners can?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll make the script for Milford Green available for people.
Oh, nice one.
That's fun. Nice. Easy peasy. And squeezy. Just download it as a PDF. But also what I do is and I think I've done this a couple of times in the scripts for you, Dan, is that I'll have rows in between pages, and I might use that to note down that there's a change from daylight to nighttime or something like that. Or like that it's early morning. So kind of any descriptions in that way, the fact that kind of the colouring is going to change, and the time of day specifically would go in between pages as well.
I mean, we can talk about how you found an artist, but for instance, if you get an artist that doesn't read the script properly and draws an entirely wrong character, like I did.
No. What's this?
Oh dear. We'll talk about this a bit later on when we come to talking about me and Sam doing collaborating on some work. But how do you source your artists to your project, Sam?
Yeah, so specifically for Milford Green, it was really a case of going on DeviantArt, and I literally searched Victorian aliens.
Oh wow!
And then
people not DeviantArt, but a lot of people use it to find artists and host portfolios there.
Yeah, definitely. And so I looked on there, and just trawling through everything, and obviously it's a mixed bag on DeviantArt, but you'll come across things occasionally where it's like, wow, that's amazing. And I did come across something amazing, and it was by this artist called Ellie Pukakis. I think that's how you pronounce her name. She's Finnish. So There's like, I think 2 or 3 Ks in her last name. But yeah, so I clicked on her stuff, and she does a webcomic called Tistow. That's Tistow. And her art just really grabbed me in respect to the story of Milford Green in terms of incorporating Victorians and aliens, because she has humans in her stories, but she's got fantastical animals as well. And so I contacted Ellie, but unfortunately she was unavailable. But she made a recommendation, and that was Michael. Because Michael does his own webcomic Year in Hereafter, but their 2 webcomics are connected.
Okay.
So they can sometimes do crossover events, even with their webcomics. And Michael's art style is very similar as well. And to add to that, Michael's colouring is just fantastic. It's so good. And so, I pitched him the story, and he thought it was fantastic. And so I commissioned him to do the concept art. So I got the front cover made, and then the character designs as well, and that's all I had for the Kickstarter, basically. So I had the front cover art, and then the character designs, and then also I was able to use some of his art from his webcomic to kind of showcase the fact that Michael is a very competent artist that can do this type of stuff, and then on that first Kickstarter, I think we got 175% funded. I think it was something like that. But basically, just over $5,000 on that. And I was blown away that we actually raised that amount of money, based on the fact that we didn't have any of the pages done yet. And it was just the front cover and the character designs and things. But I like to think that we presented it well enough that people thought the story was very interesting, were like they wanted to see it made, and the fact that we presented it in such a way that I like to think that people thought that we were trustworthy and that we would deliver, and we did. And the response of Milford Green has been positive on the whole.
So what learnings did you have from the first Kickstarter then, like moving forward? Because obviously you jumped in the deep end again, but when it came to the next Kickstarter, what was the big things you took away from it?
Yeah, I think probably really calculate your costs as strictly as you can, and as detailed as you can. And just go on the assumption that Kickstarter will take 10% of everything, basically, because they say they take 5%, and then there's like a transaction fee that can be anywhere between 3 to 5. I think 3 to 5%. But just go on the basis that they're going to take 10% of everything. So, for instance, if you're printing a comic, that costs £1.50. That costs you £1.50. Essentially, you need to work into your pricing the fact that Kickstarter is going to be taking 10% off of that.
Yeah, okay.
And off of the print costs, off of the postage costs as well. So, for instance, if your postage costs are £2, which I do, for posting just the comic and being a large letter, then they're going to take 20p of that £2, essentially. So you're actually only going to be getting £1.80 of that £2 for the postage.
So that's pretty savage, isn't it?
Yeah, it really hurts sometimes. But at the end of the day, Kickstarter is a great platform in terms of it all. I wish they'd take a little bit less, maybe.
I mean, taking stuff out the shipping and postage is like, surely you work out a fee thinking, right, that's going to cover it, and if they come in taking a whack off that, I guess they take a whack off the whole total. So any
Yeah.
money that's going through the Kickstarter system, they're taking their portion of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bloody
So
hell.
yeah, it's tough, and you just got to make sure that you work that all into your costings essentially, and don't expect to make any money on Kickstarter at all. By the way, not everybody's the Etherington brothers.
You see the picture of that car they posted up? Wow.
No, go on.
That gold car, which is probably made out of solid gold.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
They bought out the money they'd made for Kickstarter. Good on them.
Yeah, they're not going to deliver the books now that they bought the car.
See you later. Or they're going to spend the rest of their lives delivering each one individually in the car. Amazing.
That'd be some trip doing that.
So that's probably the main thing. It's just being able to work out your costs better, essentially. And then the other thing is that, and this might be maybe a little bit controversial, is that I'm not entirely sure how important pre-promotion is. I think what's important is to try and build up a fan base, but in essence, for Milford Green, I didn't have a fan base, and I put it out on Twitter and things like that, like maybe a week or two before.
Okay.
But it did really well without like a massive build up of pre-promotion and things. But I think it was based on the fact that it's a fairly unique story, unique concept at least, Victorians and aliens, and people are locked into Victorian stuff, already, and they'll gravitate towards that. And so I think what's more important on Kickstarter, maybe in particular, is making sure that your story is different.
Okay. Offering something different to what everyone else is kind of offering up.
I think so. Because Kickstarter basically promote for you within Kickstarter, essentially. And it's not to say that pre-promotion isn't important. You should still be doing that stuff and things, but it's not the be all and end all. I think one of the main things is just to make sure that your story is fair, somewhat unique, or at least it'll lean into a fan base that's there already.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Talking of Kickstarters, we'll be launching one as you listen to the show.
He's smooth.
He's
smooth, and that's a good way to announce it.
Yeah.
So yes. So tell us a bit more. I'm going to let you two take this away. Tell us more.
So it's launching today as the podcast is live, which is Monday, the 10th of June, and essentially, so the comic is called Project Hoax, and it's a one-shot, all-ages horror comic. And it's about a group of school kids who want to get their own back on the local bully, and they do this by planning a monster hoax, and that's a hoax that's involving a monster, not that it's a very large hoax, but it is as well at the same time. So it works in both ways, actually, in terms of the fact that it is a monster hoax. But basically, they get more than they bargained for when they put this plan into action on an autumn evening.
Yeah, can't go too much more into that without spoilers. But I'll be providing the art duties.
Yes,
it's something I've never done before, like draw a kids comic, or an all ages comic, should I say? So I'm relishing the challenge.
Yeah, I mean, it's an all ages horror comic, so
yes, so that's different. for a start.
Yes.
There's not that many all-ages horror comics out there.
Are we talking similar in tone to like things like Goosebumps and stuff like that kind of thing?
Yes, yeah. That's kind of the level that I'm pitching it at. Is Goosebumps essentially? So anybody that's kind of 8 and above it'll be good for them. And then equally, if you would like to reminisce about growing up in the 90s, I think you'll really enjoy it as well. Because I'm a 90s kid. And this story it's basically, it's a bit of a love letter to my childhood in the 90s. Because the group of lads that are in the comic, there's 4 of them. There's Charlie, there's Asim, there's Brian, and there's Dev. They're 4 best friends, all very, very different, but they're all best friends. And the one thing that unites them is BMXing. And that's what it was for me and my friends when we were growing up. It was BMXing, but it was all extreme sports, really. We rollerbladed, we skateboarded, we did everything. But what we did is that we had these dirt jumps in these woods when we were growing up, and so we were down there all the time, and sometimes we'd end up going into the night, and so that's kind of a bit of the inspiration for this story is is what happens at night in the woods when all the BMXers are gone.
Awesome. Yes. Yeah, what I was referencing earlier is the fact that I got 2 characters mixed up in the script, which is no fault of Sam's whatsoever. It's just me thinking one character was another. And I drew 2 pages essentially with that character and showed it to Sam. And then he pointed out quickly, this is the wrong dude. I was like, oh, shite. And the trouble is I sometimes I'll get my name in my head for someone or something, and then that's the name. Yeah. And then it's really hard to kind of shake out, no, that's not the right name. It's so if I get introduced to someone at work and I've got the wrong name in my head, that's fucking terrible, because I'll be calling them that name for weeks. So every time now I'm drawing a character in the script, I've got the reference. I've got a folder on my phone with the images in. It's right, that character, that one, they're going to look like that, and that's fine. So that mistake will not happen again.
It's all good, mate. I mean, all credit to you. You've gone above and beyond to rectify that, Dan. And it's great to see it come alive. It always is great to see a script come alive, but this one in particular, because it's essentially kind of somewhat replicating my my childhood, and particularly the opening scene. You think
really so? Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's great. Because you'll be able to see the preview pages on the Kickstarter page. But essentially the opening is the main character, Charlie, on his paper round with his tape player. And that was me when I was a lad.
Yeah.
On my paper round with my cassette player. And then he's listening to his music, and then it suddenly stops, and he tries to pull out the tape, and the tape's all caught up in the cassette player, and it's just kind of reminiscing in terms of that, but obviously revolving around this story, this horror story, involving this monster hoax that they're trying to pull off to get their own back on this bully. But I'm really excited.
I used to do a paper round as well. So those kind of when I was reading the scripts, I used to do this too. Get loaded up with a load of bags that probably
loaded up. I thought, what you mean, in a sort of montage where you got guns and pouches and all that.
I wish.
Like that scene from Commando when he lands on the beach.
But the guy from the newsagent would give me a bag that would probably has caused some posture problems in later life. I can always remember times when I'd go back and go back to the shop to drop the bag off, whatever, and the guy was like, "Oh, Joe Bloggs is running set. Do you want to do his round?" And it's like, "No way, no way."
Yeah, for an extra £2.
Yeah, an extra £2. It's like an hour's work.
Oh yeah, and then Sundays were the worst.
Yeah, because all
Sunday
the stuff
times.
Yeah.
I grew up in a fairly conservative area, so everybody had bloody Sunday times, which is an inch thick. And you've got 40 people round. I had to go back to the shop 3 times on a Sunday.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
I can remember because you could get sweets and say, "How can you take this off?" And then at the end of the week, guys say, "Oh, there you go. There's £2." It's like, "Oh, where's the rest of it?" And it's we spent it all. on sweets, and I was like, fuck, won't do that next week. I'll do the same next week. He must be making a killing because he'd get the sweets at nothing, mark them up, and then so essentially I'd be paying like, yeah, that was a foolish time in my life where I didn't really understand money.
That's what it's for.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I'm excited about with this project in particular is that Dan's offered to do some commissions.
Yes.
We've only got 10 available, but it's a video game cover commission, right? And so, like, when I was growing up, Sega Mega Drive was in my household. Some of my mates had a NES and a SNES and things like that, but I was a Sega man, a Sega kid. Dan's basically creating Sega game covers, essentially. So
amazing.
we're calling it Fega video games just to make sure.
Oh,
but it looks really good. And the one that you've done for the Project Hoax cover looks absolutely fantastic. But what people can do is, if they go for this reward in particular, is that they kind of provide a photo of the person, or whatever they want it to be about, along with a few other references and things, and then we'll essentially come up with a title for your video game, and Dan will draw it. So you can have your own Fega video game.
Amazing.
Anything you want of your comic, of your spouse, or anything.
Your spouse. Oh,
your
damn.
pets.
Yeah. Your pets.
Oh.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. If you got a dog or a cat, and just imagine like your dog or a cat kind of with a massive gun or something, or a golden or something. I don't know.
What a Pandora's box of options.
Oh, massive.
No, all sounds awesome.
Axolotl.
Yeah.
There you go. That's a pun for you.
So I mean, I can see a lot of our listeners are already going to sign up for this because it sounds right up all our streets. We'll put a link in the show notes, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, and as well as all the other, there's loads of stuff we need to put in the show notes. All that process chat.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you can grab that PDF, and we'll be able, listeners can have a look at that.
Yes.
No problem.
Yeah. So that it's so much, and I know that you're going to be doing so much more later in the year. What other shows are you doing? What conventions are you doing, Sam, this year?
Yeah, so I've got Nice booked.
Cool.
Which I think is 7th of September. I think maybe the first weekend in September, something like that. And also Ice as well, which I think is the week before. So Ice. Nice, and then I'm doing Leamington. I know.
Oh, that was a shame. That didn't rhyme.
As well. Yeah. I know, rubbish. Lime.
Nice festival.
You call it Lime.
Yeah, Lime.
Ice, nice lime. Although it doesn't rhyme.
No, that was terrible. Come on.
It rolls off the tongue. Anyway, so I'm just doing those 3 this year. I wanted to do Nottingham again this year. And sorry to the guys that run it, because they did a great job. But this year, I didn't want to drive as far, essentially, because I'm going to be moving later in the year, slightly further south. So it's going to add like another hour onto the journey.
The travel thing has always got to be a consideration, isn't it, when it comes to conventions? So, but you will be missed, but not by the people who are going to see you at Ice, Nice, or Leamington. That really does roll off the tongue. Oh dear. Anyway, yes, thank you very much, Sam, for all that proper good process chat there. And there's stuff I definitely need to follow up when it comes.
Yeah, I'm gonna check out that 8-point plan. I've not heard of that one.
Yeah, it might actually fix some of the things I'm doing. wrong.
I'll send you the link to the article that really kind of resonated with me, and perhaps, you find that interesting.
Nice. And see, I wanted to say nice when you said you were going to Nice, and I realised that's always the first word I think when people say I'm going to be at Nice. Oh, nice. I have to hold myself back from saying it every time, but it's just nice. Anyway, so Sam's sticking with us, and he's got a recommendation in his pocket for later. It's almost like he's listened to the show. But do we have any shout-outs?
Yes, I'm desperately searching my timeline for the shout out I was supposed to give, and I can't find the bloody thing.
Shall I do mine while you're having
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yeah. Look, a seamless show. You step in as I flounder.
Yeah, a flounder. You're many things, Dan. A flounder's not one of them. Yes, Small Press Day is coming very soon. Saturday, 13th of July. Any events that any of you creators or just comic fans are aware of, if anything's happening in your neck of the woods, let us know. Whether it be on our Twitter or email or whatever, because we want to put a shout out. There's loads of great events that happen on that date all over the UK. Loads of great creators are rocking up at comic shops, doing all kinds of events. It's fantastic. But for me, I'll be doing something with the BAM Comic guys. Yes, BAM Comicscene and Art Fair is coming back. We did one in December. And we're doing another one for Small Press Day, Saturday the 13th of July. The Comedia in Bath, which is 22 to 23 Westgate Street, Bath BA1 1EP. From 10 till 4, it's free entry, and I've been talking to the guys who we're organising some stuff, and we're going over the next couple of weeks. We're going to sort of like putting the foot down on promo about it. So we're just lining everything up, but there's going to be a lot of great guests there, a lot of great creators who are going to come down for the day. Some of which have been heard on this show, and beyond, and new artists and stuff as well. So, thoroughly looking forward to this. It's going to be a great day on my doorstep. So, if you're in the area, or anyway, Bath's just a fantastic place to visit. So just come to the city, have a great day, and just pop into Comedia, because it's free to get in, and there'll be loads of awesome art and comics there. You won't regret it. It's great. The atmospheres are going to be really cool. The venue's really nice. So we want to see you there. You'll probably get sick of me saying this over the next couple of weeks, but I'm going to go into full on promo mode. I guess I'm just practicing for the day I get a Kickstarter. Do you know what I mean? Just loosening up.
Take notes on how we've done it.
Yeah. yeah. I'm going to be stealing all their ideas to talk about this event. But no, the BAM Comicscene and Art Fair, Saturday 13th of July in Bath. So there you go. There's my one. Dan, did you find yours?
Got one, yes. It's from the good people at Leamington Comic Con. They've secured a space at Art in the Park in Leamington Spa on the weekend of the 3rd and 4th of August to promote the Leamington Comic Con 2019. It's an open-air event that attracts at least 30,000 people. They're looking for a couple of artists to join them over the weekend, and basically just draw and help promote the event. You also have a table to sell your stuff at. So if you're kind of relatively near Leamington, that might be a good shout for the weekend.
That sounds awesome.
Promote comics, sell stuff, and
that's what we're all about on this show.
Yeah.
Oh, and could I give a quick
go for it?
Of course, yeah.
So Comicscene, just want to give a shout out to them, and just by complete coincidence, in the next issue, Milford Green is actually going to be featured in Comicscene. So you know how they're doing stories. They're actually putting comics into the magazine as well.
Captain Cosmic's going to be in there as well.
Yeah, exactly. And so Milford Green's going to be in the next one. And he's Tony split it up into 2 parts. So you'll get the first part in the next issue of Comicscene, and then the second part in the next one after that. So amazingly, one of my creations is going to be in newsagents across the country.
Nice.
which is crazy.
Amazing. So keep your eye out for that.
Please do.
Okay, so it's that time of the show where we get onto recommendations. Oh, hold on. Did you hear that, Dan?
Yeah. There's somebody at the door.
There's somebody at the door. Who could it be? Who is it out there?
You fucking practiced that for a couple of minutes and it was still bad.
Of course it was going to be bad.
It's genius. It's me. I'm here. I'm tired. Yeah, but I'm all right.
Yes, Tony's here. He's popped his head in to say hello.
Yeah.
And
I stormed it up the motorway just to make it back for you boys, because I knew Sam was here and I missed you two as well. And I thought, I made it back for the last 10 minutes.
You're going to love this week's competition, Tony. We won't tell you.
We're not going to tell you. You can.
Oh, no. Did we read out the winner? Did we read out?
No, we're going to do that next week. We're going to do that next week.
All right, yeah.
Okay.
That is a good winner as well.
Yeah.
Oh, no, is it about me again?
No, it's not about you. Right. Not everything is about you.
It's attuned to your sensibilities.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I like that.
I mean, we did spend the last.
We have done you proud.
Yeah. We spent the last hour and 20 minutes talking about you. Yeah.
I had to nip that in the bud, didn't I? We couldn't go down that road.
No.
Okay.
No. But Tony's here, and of course Tony's here because we're going to talk about some comics. And Tony does not want to let a week go past without talking about something that you people need to be reading and pushing it into your eyeballs. Although that sounds a bit weird.
Yeah. It's good for the skin.
It's good for the skin. That's an outtake we can't put in, unfortunately.
Like all of our ones, nearly.
Yeah.
Sometimes you put an outtake in, and I literally cringe, thinking, "Oh no, which one's he put in?" Because you never tell us, do you?
No. It's when they say that some people let power go to their head. It's one of the only bits of power that I have control over. Outtakes.
Till we get the clip show.
Yeah. You should have wait. You wait till you hear some of the stuff that Sam's been saying.
Oh yeah, hot stuff.
Yeah.
But yes, you wanted to come along and recommend a book, didn't you, Tony? So do you want to go first?
You go first, because I'm a bit tired. I've just got out of the car. I listened to your one first. Go on. You go first. Guys.
First, here's a treat for you, Dan. Do you have a recommendation?
No.
So...
I did do a fair amount of recommended at the beginning of this episode.
Yes.
Oh, I look for that.
Yeah. There's so many show notes that I need to do this week. But yes. Okay, so I'll go first. Or no, actually, let's let our lovely guest go first. Sam.
Oh, thank you. So this is one that I started reading last year, and it's called it's called Port of Earth. I don't know if you guys have come across it.
Yeah.
You have, yeah. So the writer's Zach Kaplan, and the artist is Andrea Muti. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, because I think he's Italian. Muti. That was my really bad Italian accent. Anyway, definitely. So they've had 2 volumes put into trade paperbacks from last year, and he's on the 3rd one because there's 4 issues per trade now, and it'll be in July that run finishes, so you can kind of have 3 volumes come July if you want. But so the story is that, and I'll give you the spiel off the image website. So imagine if aliens came to Earth, not in war or peace, but with a business deal. Open up a spaceport here on Earth in exchange for advanced technology. So essentially, this spaceport has been put in San Francisco. And these alien spacecraft come and go through this business spaceport, but no humans are allowed inside the spaceport. And so humans essentially kind of security guards around it. But what happens is that, lines are crossed essentially in this first trade, and then the story goes from there, basically. I just thought it was a really interesting idea, and it kind of gets into the politics of it all and things like that. So I thought it was a really interesting take on not an alien invasion, but an alien
takeover bit, almost, isn't it?
Yeah, almost. Yeah, basically.
I mean, ports are always notoriously places for crime and scumbags and that sort of corruption, aren't they?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is no exception. It's a really, really good story, and I don't want to give too much away, but the art's very interesting. It's very gritty, and kind of can be heavy, I guess, at times. But no, I think it really suits the story well. And
how many issues of this have there been?
There have been, I think, 9 to date.
Oh, wow.
No, 10 maybe.
Oh wow! So
I follow Zach Kaplan on Twitter. He seems to be a good guy, actually. I've got to tell you. Yeah. Sort of quite a focused sort of sci-fi writer. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Very much so. But yeah, so I think there's just been 9 that have been published. Nice.
I
think this 3rd volume will be finished by July.
Cool.
Oh, nice one.
I have to get
That
stuck
sounds
into
great.
this.
Yeah.
Okay, my recommendation this week is a book I've had for a little while. It was a Kickstarter reward, but now I think it was launched properly at MCM recently from past guest and friend of the show, Sian Jefferson.
Yeah. I was chatting to Sian. She's a good company at MCM, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's her book Overlord, the graphic novel, which in itself is a great little book. And she went away and sort of like, she was doing comics, and then she went away and came back with like a 158-page graphic novel.
And it did like 800% on Kickstarter or something like that.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Because she did a brilliantly sort of, she kept it simple. You're just going to get a good quality book, and there were stickers and there was other bits, but when I got the book through, it's just brilliant. You know when as soon as you pick up a book, you think this is just well put together. Clearly, yeah. For those who don't know, Overlord it's a self-contained sort of story. It's about a kid basically who accidentally becomes an evil overlord in like a fantasy land. He's not evil, and he accidentally becomes like the Sauron of everything, and how he sort of learns to deal with that. And he doesn't. Lots of people want to start on him because he's an evil overlord, but he doesn't really do that many evil things. And there's other characters, he has like minions and henchmen, these fantastic sort of like bat-like minions, which just made me laugh throughout the whole story. And there's actual real villains in it as well that come to the fore. And it's just a fantastic, fun story, this one. Sian really stepped up. I know when we were next to her at Cardiff, at the carnival, where I chatted to her a bit about it, and she went for a different sort of art style. If anyone's seen some of her earlier work, and certainly with her book like Souche and stuff, she makes these little comics about her cat and stuff. The art style in Overlord was a bit of a change, and I notice it's a change that she's following through. She's continuing in that tact. It's like she's found a new sort of rhythm of drawing and stuff, and it's all it was all done in Illustrator, which I think is quite interesting. It's all sort of vector based, which gives it a really sort of clean line.
I thought it was vector based.
Yeah, because it's so clean, her style is a perfect fit for that. That's not just when we say vector based. That's not to say it's simple. There's lots of textures, colours going on. The whole book is. It's not like it's a full colour book, but it's in sort of hues of like purples and blues. And probably by the end of like 160 pages, she was sick to death of the colour purple. But the story is just brilliant. There's some wonderful action scenes. I mean, the fight at the end, because you have these, you're so used to the purples as well. There's these flashes of red that come in at the end, which really sort of stand out from the page. Some great action scenes. Because she lets the story play out. She's not rushing anything, I was just from start to finish. I just absolutely loved it.
What sort of size is that, dude? Is it sort of digest size?
It's kind of like A5 kind of size.
Right, okay, with a spine though on it, I suppose.
It's got a spine. It's got a spine on it. It's pretty much this the story. There's of course she's got some thanks in the back, and Kickstarter backers obviously get the thought. I think it's the first book that my Kickstarter name is Vince the Mad Baron Hunt, which is now how I
That works.
I forget that I write stupid things in that box that says, what would you... So I was Fandango Esmond in one book.
Because if you just write your name, it just gets lost sometimes, doesn't it? Because you just see a wall of text. Yeah, so I'm the Mad Baron whenever I'm in a Kickstarter book now. But if you're a fan of, like, it's got a wonderful... I mean, I think this will do supremely well, especially with the whole sort of D&D craze that's going on now,
it's popular, isn't it?
Yeah, but she's done this book because she loves it. I think it's just come across as a time that it should take off. I want to see this take off. The Kickstarter did well, so hopefully it'll fly off her table and stuff when she's at conventions. You can go to her Etsy store. If you go to SianJefferson.com, you can buy the book from like her Etsy store and stuff, and follow her on Twitter at Sian Jefferson. We'll have to talk to her again, I think. I like talking to her. She's got a good sense of humour, Yeah, she was sitting there, like I say, she was sitting next to us at Cardiff and just giving us a real look of disdain.
When I was off my nut again at that one again, wasn't I? So,
yeah.
I'd love to see how she went from what she did to producing this and the kind of the story behind it. That'd be great.
Yeah, I think definitely to move to that completely sort of different format of making sort of comics, to jump into it, and also to think, do you know what? I'm going to do a 160-page graphic novel. That's no mean feat.
That's the thing.
That's a long weekend, isn't it?
That is a long weekend indeed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my one. Long overdue to be shouted about. And hopefully a lot of our listeners have already got it. But will listeners have the book that you're going to talk about, Tony?
I don't know, because it's quite rare. On a quick aside, I was chatting to Sam Arthurs, who, let's face it, is my boss at No Brow, and Josh Hicks walked up, and I hadn't seen him at LCAF this weekend, and he went, "Oh, Tony, I haven't seen you since you had the shits in Cardiff." And first, I'd like to point out I didn't have the shits. I was sick out of my mouth, not out of my bum hole, and I had to say, "Oh, good to see you, Josh. Meet my boss."
I already know that made Sam's weekend, didn't it?
Probably, yeah. He did laugh at it, yeah.
Was that a dodgy curry you had? Was that the one?
That's right, yeah. Because it was some like weird Masonic lodgy type thing going on in the hotel, so I headed out and had a curry, and it didn't end well. But I made it to the con though for most of it.
Yeah.
I was just a bit delirious.
You know why? Because you're a bloody legend.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
I'm a soldier.
Yeah.
Be my friend. All right, Dan, you brown noser.
Oh, wait, I've got you a present. Vince.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
oh yeah, yeah. Actually, yeah, you are a bloody legend.
Yeah.
Speaking of presents, this is the book that I got you as presents.
Nice one.
Review it. So it's now I don't know whether this is true, and I've said it so many times this weekend that it may be true or may become true because I've made it up. But I think this might be a really rare book because I think we only printed so many at No Brow, and we found some in a cupboard. Now that may not be true. It may be just something I made up to sell it. But I've said it so many times, and I'm so knackered I can't remember which is true and which isn't. So there you go. Let's say you've got a rare. Let's just pretend you've got a rare present.
Yeah.
So normally I say to people, don't trust a single word Tony says.
Exactly.
But now you've gotten to the point where you can't actually trust yourself.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
It finally happened.
I haven't got
Quite
to
the
that
leap.
point. That point was passed long ago.
But anyway, tell us about the book. Tell us about that.
Okay, thank you. And the book is Birchfield Close by John McNaught, and it's a sort of. Do you remember Peter and Jane? What were they? Books, the sort of little hardback kids books.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that sort of format. So it's a hardback, but it's small and it's thin. It's about the size of a normal paperback, but it's a very sort of thin book. It's by John McNaught, so you know there will be contained in it some kind of intricate, sort of crazy, genius pictures, that is just sort of beautifully rendered. And it's the cover is a sort of mesh of houses, a sort of just interlocking suburban 2 up, 2 down houses that sort of streak across the page in blue and black, and blue, black and white, and it is absolutely gorgeous, I have to say. And there's I mean, I could describe every page to you, but I'm not going to, because there's not really a story to it. There's not. It's just what happens in this close, and the various things that people come across. But as John does, John finds beauty in the sort of almost mundane moments, just kids sitting there playing a video game on his Nintendo and looking above him, and as the sun is setting and the birds are flying across the sky, and there's a radio playing. There's virtually no words in it. There's very few words spoken by anyone, apart from a couple of pages. So even as this small sort of paperback, there's like 30 panels on a page again. You know what he's like.
Bloody hell.
And he was sort of sat across from me, and I got to have quite a few good chats with John. I absolutely love John's stuff, and we'll talk about LCAF next week. But he did do a talk, and then literally everyone poured down to the table and bought his books because they were so impressed with the sort of process. If you go to his Twitter page, you can see the process he goes through and how he sort of layers stuff and uses images and then puts them on the page. And every page of this looks like a sort of lino cut picture you'd want on your wall. Same as Kingdom, which we talked about before. This is just a smaller version of it, really, in a way, but with less of a sort of story to it. It's more looking into a close and looking at the people. A lot of them are in silhouette. A lot of the as the sort of sun sets, there's a beautiful page with birds flying across the. I put it on Instagram. It got loads of hits today.
That. Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah, just incredible, man. Yeah, and it's just this sort of lovely little artifact that No Brow and the sort of LCAF scene do so well. It's not a fighter, it's not a sci-fi, it's not a superhero, it's not a fantasy, and those can be good as well. It's just what it is, and John does this so well, and he's such a sincere guy, and And there's John's not one of those guys who goes and tells you how brilliant he is, but he's regularly.
We'll do that for him. We'll do that for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, hell yeah.
This comes from some of his previous work, pre-Kingdom, and Nobrow are going to collect it. A lot of all of his earlier work, hopefully at some point soon, and put it out. And Kingdom's just gone second print, so we're really, really pleased. John's fucking a legend, like I am, obviously.
Yeah.
But
Kingdom is brilliant. It's fantastic.
He really is, man.
Yeah.
Go to nobrow.net and have a look at some of his stuff and buy Kingdom. If you can't get this, just wait it out because it will get reprinted at some point soon. There you go. That's my
awesome one to look out for. And I think he's already shot onto a lot of people's one of their favourite creators list. Anyway.
Yeah. We had a few people heard about him. Heard about him from our mentions. I think I did it as a book of the week, and you mentioned it as well, Dan, didn't you? And all of us have mentioned him. Yeah. A lot of people came to the table to buy books of his because they'd heard it from us, which was nice.
That's great.
Oh, that's nice. Oh, you are lovely people out there. And thank you once again for joining us this week. It's been another fun one.
Yes.
Lots of stuff to check out, to go forth, to read, to investigate, to research, and we gave you your Tony fix. We do what we can. But
I'm so tired I won't remember this tomorrow.
No. Which means you can listen to it and you can...
it'll be fresh.
Yeah, it'll be fresh. I tell you what is fresh, and that is our guest Sam, who's been a legend this week. Thank you very much, Sam, for joining us.
Cheers, Sam.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to listening to this back, you bastards.
That's the Faustian Pact completed.
Yes.
Sam's appeared on our show. We appeared on his.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The circle is closed.
Yeah.
Yes. Now the gates are opened and the world's going to end. So you're welcome.
Bring it on.
Yeah. If your world is ending and you want to blame us for it, then there's several different ways you can get in touch. You can email us, awesomecomicspod@gmail.com, which is where you send your competition answers, remember? So go back to the beginning to find out what that competition is, Tony. Cause
I can't wait to hear this.
You'll like it. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Follow us on Twitter @TheAwesomePod, where we'll be announcing guests and all kinds of stuff in the next coming weeks. If you do the Book of Faces, go to facebook.com/awesomecomicspodcast. And if you do Facebook groups at all, then join Awesome Comics Talk, because there's loads of great chatter always going on there. New people are joining in all the time. And there's lots of events and comic processes. There's going to be some stuff from this week's show that I'd like to see discussed on the boards as well.
Yeah.
I literally only go onto Facebook to look at that group because
it's a sewer otherwise, isn't it?
I go on for that June meme group, which has happened in my life.
That. Yeah, that's like improved our week no end, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just been great.
I think I'm going to have to give Tony and Dan a June week, one week.
Well, Sinkovich did the comic. We can talk about that.
Yeah.
But that'll be in the future. Thank you for listening to us, whether it was on the website awesomecomics.podbean.com. If you listen to us on iTunes, subscribe, leave a review. We haven't had a review for a little bit, so go on. If you haven't done one before, give us a cheeky review. Go on. Dan will do something nice for you. What will you do, Dan?
A little dance.
There you go. Trust me, it's worth it.
I want to thank everyone who's left a review for Vanguard on Comic House. I looked at an issue today and there was a few on there and it was really, really touching.
Nice.
So thank you.
Man.
Really appreciate that.
Yeah. Thoroughly deserved, dude. You've been smashing it.
Oh, thank you. Cheers.
Yeah. And where can people find... Well, actually, we're on loads of networks like Stitcher, Podnose, Podknife. What other networks are we on, Tony?
We're on Pod. Jizz is the Mind Killer.
I'm just going to leave that one there because I know his brain's porridge. And thank you for joining us this week. Where can people find us online, etc.? Mr. Esmond.
neverindanything.blogspot.co.uk or EZOHYZ.
Brilliant. Daniel?
Thank you.
You can find me on Twitter at Vanguard Comic, and you can read all 16 issues of Vanguard at vanguardcomic.com.
Brilliant.
Cool.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Jester Diablo, and you can find out more about my comic at theredmousefrommars.com. And I might, if you want to commission me to do something, I'm on a bit of an art kick at the moment.
You're fucking doing about 10 a day. Crazy person.
I wouldn't say that. I started a big one this weekend that I've got big plans for. So
the wrestling one went mad, didn't it?
Yeah.
You did a wrestler.
I've been doing a lot of wrestlers, which may get collected up at some point. We shall see. We shall see.
Yeah.
But yeah, follow me there. And Sam, brilliant guest. Thank you much for joining us. And do you want to plug your podcast? Because we haven't really talked much about the podcast. You do comics for the apocalypse, don't you?
Yes. So if people want to check that out, you can search it in iTunes or where we host it on SoundCloud. soundcloud.com/comics apocalypse. But for anybody that hasn't listened before, I basically interview guests about what comics they take into the apocalypse. As we mentioned before, I've had all three of you guys on the podcast.
But the other episodes are really
my
good.
Pleasure. Yeah, that's right. Although I think, off the top of my head, Dan, you're the leader in terms of listener numbers.
Doesn't surprise me.
Actually,
that'll be all the ladies.
Of course.
But no, yeah, it's just a real good time. It's basically Desert Island Discs, but for comics, kind of in the context of an apocalypse. But yeah, it's a good time. So if you want to come on over and listen, please do.
Nice. And where can people find you and everything else online?
Best place is Twitter. So twitter.com/Samuel G London. And then I'm Samuel G London on Instagram as well. And then, make sure that you drop by my Kickstarter profile where Dan and I's Kickstarter is up there, Project Hoax. So just search Project Hoax on Kickstarter and you'll be able to find it right there.
Yes. There you go, folks. Tons to check out this week. Now you can go forth, destroy the world with your love for comics, while Tony sits back and has a Horlicks and tries to recover.
I'll go and carry a load of boxes in from the car now.
Oh, fuck.
He just wants you. He wants your sympathy, Dan. Don't let.
Tony's always got my sympathy.
I think that's a loaded answer that we need to discuss off the air.
I'm picking up both ways, but mostly good. Thank you, Dan.
And thank you very much again to everyone that listened. Go forth, have a brilliant week. Oh God, I've messed up there. That's Tony. You've put me off with your sexy ways. That's what it is. Dan, do you want to sign us off this week?
Not particularly, but I will. Thanks once again for listening to the Awesome Comics podcast. We'll see you next week on another great show.
I'll tell you what, I'm training him up. It's like a work experience, lad.
I'm particularly aroused right now.
Yeah, and then in a matter of months, he's going to take my job.
Let's face it, I had a go at it. It was shit.
Yeah, me and you did it. We actually fell apart.
No, it was good. It was good. It was good. You just need to learn how to say thank you for listening, folks. Go forth, have a brilliant week, read loads of comics from Dan, Tony, Sam, and myself. Have a brilliant week, and as always, what do they do, Dan?
Stay awesome.
Fuck yeah.
That's how you do it. That's fucking pro. Textbook.
Textbook. Absolute
a long way to go.
Yeah. See you guys.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Let's get rolling.
Let's get rolling. Oh, God. I shouldn't have had a coffee before I started this.
Busting out the Limp Bizkit beats.
Yeah, you know it.
Oh, yes. Rolling.
Right. Jesus.
Come on. And press
Limp
record.
Bizkit style.
Come on. Shall I do? Are we going to do doorbell? Is that what we're going to do?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Are you going to say something? Or are you going to do that?
Hey?
I go, there's someone at the door.
No, we're not. It's not fucking Rod and Emu.
Oh, why not? God.
Yeah,
He's the
okay.
big windmill.
Well, yeah, all right.
I'll be grot bags.
Yeah.
You're clearly grot bags.
Who's got their hand up the other one's arse then?
Or Grotbox. Grotbox, that's what it is.
Yeah, Grotbox. One of us has got
Sorry,
to be
Sam.
Rudd and one's got to be Emu.
It's quite
I'm sorry,
all right,
I'm sorry,
mate.
but
I'm
it's
enjoying
so
it.
disgusting. It upsets me.